Best Book Bits podcast brings you MJ DeMarco, semi-retired entrepreneur, the revolutionary Get Rich Slow anti-guru, author of the best-selling books Millionaire Fastlane, Crack the Code to Wealth, and Live Rich for a Lifetime. The book Unscripted, Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Entrepreneurship and the Great Rat Race Escape from Wage Slavery to Wealth. How to start a purpose-driven business and win financial freedom for a lifetime. Now, take us back to living with your mother and mopping floors, dreaming of a life free from the 9 to 5 and a boss. When was this?
Oh, that was many years ago when, I grew up in a middle-class household, lower middle-class household where, getting food on the table was always an issue. And I really aspired for a life of affluence, of wealth. And real young, I gave up on that idea because I figured in order to get rich and do it young, you had to be an athlete, a professional footballer or a celebrity or something like that. And I had no interest in that. I wasn't good with athletics and whatnot. And one day in my neighborhood, there was a Lamborghini Countach. I think I was 13, 14 years old. I was absolutely mesmerized by this car back then. It was in the Cannonball Run, a big movie back then. It was a spaceship-looking car, and I absolutely loved it. So when I saw it in the flesh, I was absolutely amazed by it. And then I saw the person who was driving it was a young man, and that threw me for a loop because I figured, you would have to be an older person to be driving a six-figure car. And at that point, I decided I was going to go up to him and ask him what he did for a living. And interestingly, if you ever owned a Lamborghini, I've owned several, that is a very frequent occurrence. People coming up to you, asking you what you do. And here I did it back then, 30-some plus years ago. And he said he was an entrepreneur, and that set me on a path to become an entrepreneur very early in life. And looking back at that, it was a very key distinction. It was a belief shift for me that, hey, you know what? If you want to pursue this career as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you can acquire wealth pretty quickly. So it was a belief shift for me back then because, to be honest with you, I didn't have much faith that I could do it because I didn't want to be the athlete. I couldn't shoot hoops or anything. And I certainly didn't like the standard advice, which was you had to go get a job for 50 years, save all your money, wait for stock market wealth to happen over 40 or 50 years. That certainly didn't appeal to me. So that little, probably 15-minute little event absolutely changed my life.
I can understand why you wrote the book, but yeah, in 2007 you retired, and during your hiatus you wrote the Millionaire Fastlane, which took 4 years to write instead of 3 months as you thought. Yeah, give us a snapshot. What is sort of the book about? We're going to get into some observations and what the different financial roads are, but in your words, yeah, what's the book about?
Again, yeah, the Millionaire Fastlane is. I wrote it in 2007. It was about 3 years it took me to write, not 4. But it was everything that I wish I knew when I was 20 is in that book. And there's nothing, there's no upsell in there. I don't sell coaching seminars. I don't sell workshops, for $5,000. I have no upsell whatsoever. Everything that you need to know is in that book or any other one of my books because I don't hide anything. There's a complete framework in there on how you can increase your probability for generating a business that not only just pays your bills, but it changes your life. Because entrepreneurship is hard enough. And the worst thing to do is start a business and all it does is pay your bills. And you essentially created yourself a job. That's not why you want to get into business. You want to get into business is to change your customers' lives and simultaneously change your life. of my work.
Yeah, and it all does come down to belief system and believing that you can do it as well. I'll just recap on sort of the 3 financial roads that you talk about in the book, and then if you want to expand on them, you can. You talk about the sidewalk, which is living well today at the expense of having more security tomorrow. The sidewalker's destination is being poor. Next, you talk about the slow lane, which is sacrificing today so that you can be better off in the future. The opposite of the sidewalk, the slow lane's destination is mediocrity. And then you talk about the fast lane, which is working hard today on something that people value so you can become wealthy in the next sort of 5, 7, or 10 years as well. Is that sort of a good recap on the 3 financial roads?
So the sidewalk, I think everyone starts on the sidewalk. That's when you just, everything you earn, you spend. You don't save it. You don't plan for the future. And it's really interesting because you can be wealthy and be on the sidewalk. This is when you have professional athletes who make millions and millions of dollars and then they go retire and then they're bankrupt 3 or 4 years later. That's someone that lives on the sidewalk. There's no money management. The slow lane is what's very popular today because the stock market has hyperinflated. So people in the slow lane are told to save every dollar they earn, live miserly, live frugal, put all those savings into the stock market, namely indexed funds. Wait 20, 30, 40 years, and then one day you're going to be rich. And if you're really a good investor and a good saver, meaning you don't buy anything, then you can maybe do it in 20 years. And at which point you can retire and live the same mediocre existence that you just lived for the last 20 years, sacrificing your youth for that type of existence. That's the slow lane. That's very popular nowadays. It's popularized into a term. Slow lane is 2 variables, which is how fast can you save money and how much time do you have to be patient, and also how much return are you going to get from the markets, 8%, 10%. And again, that's not asymmetric returns. Asymmetric returns is 800%, 8,000%, 80,000%. That's asymmetric returns, and that's the essence of a fast lane. You use a fast lane business strategy to attain those asymmetric returns. And then when you have a lot of capital, $10, $20 million, then all of a sudden the stock market, a measly 3 or 4 or 5% will generate you thousands and thousands of dollars every month, and you're not dependent on it. So a good example, I always say, hey, if the stock market dropped tomorrow 50% and stayed there for 10 years, it's not going to change my life one difference. But if you are reliant on that, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have to, get another job. You're going to have to, tweak your plan. And it's just, it's very risky, in my opinion, a very risky strategy.
Such a difference, fast lane versus slow lane mentality as well. And some of the notes I got from the book as well, and I'll just go over it. You talk about fast laners view debt as a useful tool for growing their systems, time as their most important asset, and making something of value as their primary means of wealth accumulation. In contrast to slow laners, view passive investing as a means to getting rich. You also talk about, in terms of building wealth, the goal is not to do the heavy lifting, but to create a system that does it for you. I think so many employees in businesses are these slow lane mentality where they're building someone else's system, but the business owner owns the system. They only own a system. They don't need to work in the system. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and just that mindset of, hey, instead of being the employee, how about owning the business system? That's really where the money is.
The objective of the fast lane is to create a business system that works for you while you're not working. And this is how you separate yourself from that age-old equation. If I'm not working, I'm not making money. I have, here in the States, there's a term called on the clock, which means you're making money. You punch in, you're on the clock, you work for 8 hours, you punch out, you're off the clock. I've been on the clock since 1998. I've been on the clock, meaning I have been making money from 1998 till today, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's a business system, because you instead of focusing on how can I ramp up how much people are willing to pay me, well, I don't want to make $20 an hour. I want to start making 50. Forget about that. Focus on a business system that's going to work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is covered in my other books. You do that through a specialized unit. Specialized units stand on their own. For instance, this podcast that you're doing right now, you're spending an hour here doing it. You'll maybe spend another 20 minutes editing or whatever. But once you launch that podcast into your ecosystem, it's going to exist for years. And who knows? I don't know if you're selling any products or you have a system or something. Someone may read that, listen to it 2 years from now and buy whatever you're offering. That's legacy value. That's a system that you're creating. So you want to invest your time into something that's not only going to pay you money, but in the future is also going to pay you free time. And that's what's accomplished with the business system. Now, people confuse that with the specialized unit. For example, I don't have one here, but my book, that's a specialized unit. I can die tomorrow, hope I don't, but if I die tomorrow, that book is still going to exist and it's still going to make money. It will make money for my estate. That is a specialized unit. But the thing is, people don't understand there's a business system behind that. I have a forum. There's 70,000 users at that forum. You know, hundreds of, I don't know, thousands of people visit it daily. My YouTube channel, I have 50,000 subscribers. That's part of the system. All my publishers around the world. I have over 25 licenses that are all over the world. Those are business systems. So people confuse the specialized unit with the business system. They focus on the specialized unit, which is important, but then they neglect the business system. A good example of this is self-publishing itself. I'm a self-publisher. I'm the CEO of a small publishing company, but people say, "Oh, I'm going to get into that." So they create a book. They spend 2 days writing a book and they throw it up on Amazon, and guess what? They make nothing. Nothing happens. And as it should, nothing happens because you have no business system. You haven't created a platform or a brand or something that is going to be beyond the unit, the specialized unit. And so everything, it's kind of a yin and yang. You have the specialized unit and then you have the business system. This is how you get divorced from time. This is when you wake up in the morning and you look and say, "Oh my God, I already made $1,000 today. And I just woke up." As you know, Warren Buffett said, unless you can find a way to make money while you're sleeping, you're never going to get rich. And the Fastlane business system is all about that, eventually separating yourself from that means of having to work in order to earn income. Get yourself on the clock and never, ever go off it again.
Yeah, thanks for unpacking that.